Hey everyone, so I'm at Six Flags over Georgia in Atlanta. This was a trip that I had planned for kind of a while, and unfortunately, everything you can imagine went wrong.
So basically what had happened was my car's transmission decided to completely crap out, and I was on the highway. It was a whole ordeal. It was awful. And I was thinking that I wouldn't be able to do this trip at all. I found a workaround and I ended up going to Six Flags and Fun Spot America. I was supposed to go to Carowinds, but unfortunately I will have to fly out and do that another time. But that's okay, I still had an amazing time, as you'll see.
But it really doesn't matter. I'm excited to be here. I made the best of a really bad situation, and I'm really looking forward to this park. There is a Batman clone, and I have heard that that is probably the most intense Batman clone there is. I've been on two of them so far, the one at Six Flags St. Louis and Six Flags Great America. So there's a Batman clone, there is a Schwarzkopf Looper, which I have yet to ride. I know it has B&M trains now, but I've never been on one of those. There's a B&M Hyper called Goliath that is a contender for one of the best, if not the very best. There's a stand-up coaster called Georgia Scorcher. I've never been on a stand-up before, so that's new for me. I'm really kind of in a rush today, and at the end of this vlog, I'm going to be going to Fun Spot America, the Atlanta location, to get probably my first and last ride on ArieForce One. That's an RMC hybrid that is definitely a huge favorite in the enthusiast community, so I'm really looking forward to that. Excited right now. Starting to see lots of B&M track. There's a Georgia Scorcher on my left and Goliath on my right. Cute. This would be their main entrance. Well, not main entrance, but main plaza. Six Flags St. Louis had a spot like this too, where it was covered. I really like it. Definitely appreciate that in the warmer states.
So at this point, I decided to ride Goliath. It is a 2006 B&M hypercoaster with a height of 200 feet. The drop is only 175 feet, and I believe it's actually the second drop that's the biggest, but definitely was my number one bucket list coaster in this park.
Alright, so I just rode Goliath, B&M Hyper from 2006. Not as good as I expected it to be, but still really fun. The floater airtime over the larger hills was better than the second half, in my opinion. I was expecting to really get ejected from the seat, but it was just alright, in my opinion. Either way, not really much of a complaint. I also didn't think it was as rough as people claim that it is. Definitely not as smooth as something like Raging Bull, but still pretty smooth. I really didn't have an issue.
Next, I got a ride on Twisted Cyclone, a 2018 Rocky Mountain construction creation with the steel eye box track, and it has a height of 100 feet, a drop of 96 feet, and 3 inversions. I think the top speed is about 50 miles per hour. This was my first ever RMC, entirely made of the steel iBox track.
Alright, so I just got off Twisted Cyclone. I have to say, that was absolutely incredible. I was not expecting it to be that great for how small it is compared to some other RMCs I've done. I think it's better than Goliath at Six Flags Great America. I think it's almost even with Lightning Rod at Dollywood. Maybe not. Maybe not. That one has been my favorite for quite some time. So good. So much incredible airtime. I was being thrust into the lap bar like over and over. The inversions were all so great. It was glossy smooth. I mean, like, zero complaints. That was just a world-class roller coaster in my opinion.
Next, I got a ride on the Riddler Mind Bender, a 1978 Schwarzkopf looping coaster with 2 vertical loops with a height of 80 feet. This was the first time I'd ever been on a looping model by this manufacturer. Before that, I'd only been on Whizzer at Great America. This was a really exciting moment for me. I had no idea what to expect. And I know that the train used to be longer, and they've since replaced it with B&M trains, and they're shorter now, so I think the original ride was probably better. But with all that being said, you'll see my reaction in a minute, and I still had a good time on it.
Alright, so the Riddler Mind Bender. That was an old Schwarzkopf looper. The first one I've ever been on. I thought it was pretty fun actually. Not, too crazy compared to more modern stuff, but I really liked it. The terrain setting was cool. The loops were very forceful. The airtime was actually okay in a few spots too. I thought it was a pretty good classic, and yeah, they should keep it around. I'm now about to get on what I've heard is the most intense Batman clone of them all.
So the background noise was really loud here, but if you're not familiar with Batman the Ride, it is a 1992 B&M inverted roller coaster, the very first one of its kind, debuted at Six Flags Great America in 1992. So this one is a direct copy of that one. However, it does run significantly faster. I know that this is a warmer climate, so that probably has a lot to do with it, but I do wonder if there are other factors. This particular clone was built in 1997, has a height of 100 feet, a drop of 84.5 feet, and the same 5 inversions as the original. Yeah, this thing was just ridiculously intense.
That was the most intense ride experience I think I've ever had. Everybody defines intense in a different way, but for me, it's when there are a lot of rushes of positive Gs, and the combination of positive Gs with the speed that ran at were so intense that I completely lost consciousness. So, up until now, I've had moments of gray out on roller coasters, but I've never fully blacked out like that. Like, I don't even remember the first half of the ride beyond the vertical loop, but the second half was, really whippy. So I definitely noticed that. By far the most insane Batman clone I've ever been on, and probably the most intense ride I've ever done. Wow. This part right here kind of reminds me of Dollywood a little bit. The grist mill with the cinnamon bread. Those of you who have been to Dollywood know what I'm talking about. This is really beautiful. I'm still kind of recovering from that ride on Batman. I mean, that was just... If I had to describe it better, I would say it felt like my body was being squeezed into another dimension. Like I was being flattened like a pancake. It's absolutely insane. This is so nice. I do have a couple of minor nitpicks about this park so far, but the landscaping and the presentation are absolutely not part of that. Shout out to another clone. This is Superman Ultimate Flight, a B&M flying coaster, which can be found at Six Flags Great America. But I will probably skip it because I'm not really that into that model. much older attraction that I hope isn't super rough.
So Great American Scream Machine is a 1973 Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters Woody that was apparently really, really rough for a long time, and some people say that even today it's still really rough. It has been retracked. I didn't think it was that bad when I rode it, but I'll chalk that up to luck, I think, because I did ride in the first row, so that may have spared me. I don't know.
Yeah, overall, for a really old classic Woody, I think it has some pretty decent airtime and ran pretty well. I really don't have that many complaints. I think when it comes to older rides, that was actually a pretty good example of good maintenance. Like I said, I know they did a retrack pretty recently. So far, I haven't been on a ride that I've disliked.
So this next ride, Blue Hawk, has some very interesting history behind it. It was originally opened in 1989 at a park called Conco's Party Pier in New Jersey, and it was called Kamikaze back then. And it wasn't until 1992 that it was relocated to Over Georgia, but at the time it was called Ninja. Until 2016, it operated under that name and then was rethemed and is now called Blue Hawk. And interestingly enough, this is a Vekoma MK1200 model. This would be my first time to ride one. These models can tend to be pretty shaky and uncomfortable, so I went into this expecting a little bit of that. The ride stands 122 feet tall, has a drop of 109 feet, and has 5 inversions.
That honestly kind of sucked, I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't the most painful thing I've ever done by any means. Well, really it was like medium bad. Yeah, just not really that thrilling or fun either. And a lot of really bad transitions. I don't know, not my favorite.
This next ride I went on is called Dahlonega Mine Train. It is a 1967 aerodynamics mine train, and this is by far the oldest ride. Well, I guess not by far anymore because I've been on Great American Scream Machine now, but this is the oldest ride I've ever been on. And it showed its age a little bit, but I found it to be actually pretty enjoyable. You'll see my review after I ride it, but really interesting to go on such an old ride. I don't think I've ever been on anything that is from the 60s. I think everything I've ridden has either been from the 70s or later. This ride obviously is geared towards families, but I love a good mine train. Is it as good as some of the other ones I've been on? No, not necessarily, but I always find it fun to get on them.
Just did Dahlonega Mine Train. That is from 1967, and it does show its age a little bit. I didn't think it was as rough as a lot of people say it is. Was it the most exciting thing I've been on? Definitely not, but still appreciated the use of the terrain. And yeah, I mean, it was a nice way to like cool off with a little bit of breeze and just chill out. I'm about to get on Georgia Scorcher, which is going to be my first stand-up coaster, and I'm expecting it to be pretty intense. So let's see how that goes. Shout out to another coaster I will be skipping, unfortunately, Daredevil Dive. It hasn't cycled, but that's okay. Eurofighters aren't my favorite. And also Georgia Scorcher went down as soon as I tried to ride it. Not the end of the world. I'm gonna get on Goliath instead. Here we go. Alright, so I just did Goliath in the back row, and I've got to say, I owe it an apology. I thought that was pretty fucking great. Is it as good as the other B&M Hypers I've been on? Yes. Is it better? I don't know for sure yet. I would have to ride it more. Really good layout. I mean, I had airtime pretty much the entire ride. The Helix turnaround is really forceful as well. Setting by the water is cool. Like, I love everything about it. So I take back what I said, probably the best in the park. So it does look like I won't be getting on some of the rides I wanted to today, like Daredevil Dive, Joker Funhouse Coaster, which was closed for a while as well. And I'm kind of running out of time, mostly because I have to get out of here and go ride ArieForce One pretty soon. Okay, honestly, after a re-ride, I gotta say it, I do think Twisted Cyclone is my favorite ride in this park. I'm about to do Georgia Scorcher. I really don't think that's gonna beat it out, but we'll see how that goes. It's finally open.
Georgia Scorcher opened in 1999. It is a stand-up coaster by B&M. It has a height of 107 feet, a drop of 101 feet, and 2 inversions. This was my first time to ever ride a stand-up coaster, and I was intimidated. I will admit that. They have a reputation for being uncomfortable. I figured it might be a little bit too much for me, especially because it was such a hot day, but it turned out to be a good experience.
I'm on my way out of the park. I didn't get on everything I wanted to because I just don't really have as much time as I would like, but I did pretty much do everything except for Daredevil Dive, which I can always come back and do that later, and Joker Funhouse Coaster, which that's like a family thrill ride, so I'm not really that upset about that. Apart from that, I pretty much did everything that I wanted to do. I skipped Superman because it's a clone and not really something that I care about right now. Overall, I thought this park was way better than I expected it to be. I thought the operations were better than I expected. They still weren't good. I will say that. That is my one nitpick, really, is that I do think the operations were kind of poor, but it wasn't that busy, so I lucked out, and I had a fast lane. So to me, the operations weren't as bad as I expected. I did also ride Georgia Scorcher, which was my first B&M stand-up coaster, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that it was not only really fun, but very smooth and not uncomfortable in any way at all. I actually probably would say that might be my third favorite in this park overall. Yeah, I don't know, I would have to come back and get some more re-rides. I was impressed with the rides lineup here. There was almost nothing that I didn't have a good time on. Probably Blue Hawk was my least favorite, but it wasn't terrible. I think I was a little harsher on it earlier than I maybe needed to be. Yeah, that was probably my least favorite ride, but still not terrible, you know, like I've been on worse. And the way the park is built into the terrain is really beautiful. I think this is one of the better looking locations I've been to. There were lots of trees throughout the park. I really liked how Goliath went by the water and kind of goes outside the park as well. Great American Scream Machine and Blue Hawk as well both have really great settings, and a lot of other rides built into the terrain with trees surrounding them. I just really thought it was a nice looking park. Super enjoyable to be at. Well, I can't believe it, but I made it to Fun Spot America, and I really didn't think I would ever make it out here, to be honest. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for me. I'm about to go ride ArieForce One. So excited. Probably doesn't sound like it because I am really tired, but I'm beyond ecstatic to get a chance to ride this in its original location. We don't really know if it's going to be relocated or not, so this might be my last chance. I don't know. I've heard that this is one of the very best RMC hybrids in existence, and it's only 3 years old. So let's go see how it is. All right. So, interesting vibe at this place. It pretty much feels like a local carnival kind of plopped down in the middle of nowhere. Parking was entirely free today. That was cool. Didn't expect that to happen. And yeah, just a lot of like tame flat rides, and there was a junior coaster in the front. I'm not sure how many other small coasters this park has. I'm only going to be focusing on ArieForce One back here, of course. Yeah, this place is kind of charming in a way. I definitely like this. I know they also have go-karts, and it looks like they have like bumper boats and stuff, so they have some alternative forms of entertainment that you may not see at like a Six Flags, for instance. But man, I am so ready to get a ride on this thing. It looks incredible. Now, unfortunately, I do see a pretty bad looking storm off in the distance. I really hope that doesn't come anywhere near us, but it's looming. It's looming, it's lurking, it's back there. The best way I can describe that ride is that it is comically good. I mean, like, comically aggressive, but also really smooth. Like, not a single moment of that is uncomfortable. It is so fast, the entire layout. There's non-stop airtime. Every inversion is so fast. Yeah, I'm at a total loss for words. I'm kind of feeling heartbroken, honestly, right now that this park is closing, because even though it doesn't really offer a whole lot else, I mean, it's still a good family spot, and it's, you know, just got this certain kind of charm about it. And even the ride ops are like really, really kind. And we had a really long delay earlier where there was bad weather in the area, and they even made sure to say, like, hey, really sorry that this is happening. In a little bit, we're gonna run some test trains after this clears out. And they even told us exactly how many they would have to run before we could get back on, because they wanted us to be on the ride. Like, they really seemed to genuinely care. And yeah, it was just, it was so much fun. I was honestly so tired after my second ride. I rode it 3 times, but after time 2, I thought I was too tired to take anymore because I've been at Six Flags all day as well and been really overheated. So I thought that I would be done after ride 2, but it was so fun that I had to go back for a third ride. And I got a ride in the dark, which was awesome. 2 favorite moments of that ride are the huge wave turn and the double up after it, but mainly the dive off the second hill, if you know what I mean. So it goes up 2 hills, one of them is smaller, and then there's a larger one. So the dive off of that larger one is so incredible. Yeah, like, I saw so many familiar faces, a lot of people who were at Over Georgia earlier who said they would be here, and struck up really good conversations with people in line who also adore this ride. I just felt like the energy was so amazing tonight, and even though there was a really long delay where I had to wait an hour for the rain to clear out, like, this was worth it. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out the vlog here. I had an excellent time at both parks today. I mean, just look at this too. This beautiful waterfront area. It's just a nice little peaceful area for me to film my final words about this really charming amusement park with this, for some reason, world-class ride. And I will have to say, as of right now, that is my favorite roller coaster I've ever been on. Without a doubt, that is my favorite one. I like felt addicted to it, to be honest. And you know, I hope that it will get relocated, but I'm not feeling super confident about that. I just feel like so many parks are already struggling financially. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bittersweet moment. I almost don't want to leave. This was a really long day, but wow, what an amazing time. And if you made it all the way to the end, thanks for watching. I can't wait to bring you guys somewhere else next.